My name's Sarayak, and for the past few months I've been renovating this camper van alongside my girlfriend who was renovating one of her own. And this week I cut open my $600 Starlink to mount it to my roof. Some of you guys are probably wondering why I didn't just buy the flat mount Starlink dish, and the reason why is because it's a pretty hefty price tag of $2,500, and also it draws more power than the standard Starlink dish that I have. I have had the standard Starlink dish for years. I had it in my last van, but one thing I didn't love about it is that it comes in a pretty big system. It has a ton of wires and cords, and every single time I got to a campsite, I would have to like set it up, and then it took up a ton of space in my vehicle, which it's not a big space. So this time around, I decided to cut open the Starlink, glue it onto this piece of polycarbonate, and mount it to my roof. And the nerve-wracking thing about this is it completely voids the warranty of this $600 Starlink. The first step to this process was cutting down the polycarbonate. I got a 24-inch by 24-inch piece of polycarbonate that's a half of an inch thick. I got it off of Amazon, and I'll leave all the links for this project in the description below if you want to do this to your Starlink as well. But I had to cut down the polycarbonate because I have a limited space on my roof in between my solar panels and max air fan where this Starlink's going to go. So I cut that down on the table saw, and then I cut down the Starlink, which was much more nerve-wracking. We basically become nocturnal because during the day it is like up to 90 degrees or 95 degrees today even. So we're working at night. Tori's back there cutting the support beam off of her van. She's gonna install her skylight, and I'm cutting this piece of Lexan because I am going to cut open my Starlink today, which is completely terrifying. But if this works out, this is going to save me so much money and be such an amazing solution to mount it on my van. Now that I have the Lexan cut, I am ready to cut the Starlink itself. Yay! Whoa, that's so cool. There it is. We need to vacuum that out, I guess. Thought I'd actually show you guys exactly where I cut it so that you know if you're gonna do it for yourself. I cut it about a 1/4 inch past these vents. Honestly, I could have cut it in the other direction of the vents. That way I didn't have to redo the vents, and maybe that would have been more smart, but I just didn't really think of that. So that may be something you want to consider if you're doing it for yourself. Once I had the Starlink cut open, I vacuumed off the circuit board because it had a ton of plastic pieces on it, and I just made sure that I wasn't actually touching the circuit board itself. So I was kind of hovering the vacuum over the circuit board. And after that, I removed the motor from the back plate, and then I removed the wiring from the base because we will be using that. Oh wait, I'm twisting it back. The next step for this installation was to cut this little notch out of the plastic for the wire because this needs to sit flush on the polycarbonate when I mount it. So I cut off that little notch that perfectly fits this wire here, and this will eventually go in my van through my roof and hook up to the rest of the system. After that, I cleaned off the circuit board a little bit more, and then it was time to cut these tiny holes for ventilation in the polycarbonate. The vent hole is a little over 1 millimeter in diameter, so I got a miniature drill bit and I drilled a bunch of holes in the polycarbonate to mimic what was in the original system. After that, I hooked up the wire to the circuit board, but I did not hook up the secondary wire since that's for the motor and we won't need that. And the next step was to glue it on. Wow, there's a lot of dust on this right now. But I glued this with 3M adhesive, and again, I'll have that linked down below, and I waited 24 hours for it to cure. I also put a little bit of the glue on the wire. That way this wire won't be shaking around in here when I drive. And now it's the moment of truth. Did I destroy my $600 Starlink? If you've been following my channel for a while, you know I'm a big fan of BLUETTI power stations, and these power stations not only come in handy while on long road trips, but also while working on the van build. The temperature during the day has been getting so hot, like up to 95, 97 degrees, which is so insane. So I've been using the BLUETTI power station to power my AC unit that I've already installed in the van. And I've also been using the station to power this workshop light so I can light up my van when it's in the workshop and have a nice space to work in. I can also plug in all the tools I need to into this power station, which is especially handy when I don't have access to long extension cords like right now. I brought a bunch of tools, so I'm going to see how much this can handle, and I'm going to start with my AC unit because I'm really hot, so I want to run this. I'm going to set it to 67, so that's pulling 161 watts. Okay, I'm going to take Starlink off, and we are going to do the oscillating tool. That's 251 watts. Next, we're gonna do the nibbler tool, which is my favorite metal cutting tool ever. I'm literally obsessed with this thing. That's 469 watts. And then let's do the jigsaw, which I don't even have a blade in this jigsaw, but just for the purposes of this example, let's try it out. 353 watts. I'm just gonna keep the AC running because it feels so good. This power station is also water resistant and dust proof, so I don't have to worry about it getting damaged in extreme climates. A couple months ago, I installed 800 watts of solar panels on the roof of this van, and because this power station offers 1200 watts of solar input, I've been able to charge the battery with my solar panels. This power station can also act as a UPS. This is such a versatile and must-need product for living off-grid, and it's made my life during this van build so much easier. So if you are also interested in getting a BLUETTI power station, click the link in my description to learn more. Okay. I'm gonna pull up the app. Oh my gosh, I'm literally nervous. I tested out my Starlink and it does still work. I'm so happy about that. And the next step is putting it on my roof, but I wanna make sure I'm doing this in a way that's very easily serviceable in the future so that if anything does go wrong with this Starlink, I can easily replace it. And I think I have a pretty good plan to do that. I just added all the 90 degrees to the cross beam, and I have the first beam in. It literally took so long. This was such an exercise of patience. I'm gonna have to do one more beam, and then I'm going to mount the Starlink right here where I'm sitting. I'm finicky. Oh no! One of the screws fell out, and you have no clue how long it takes to get this screw in. Oh my gosh, I cannot believe that just happened. It is seriously so delicate. It's really frustrating. This is my assistant, and he's the best assistant in the whole world. 3/4. You ready to cut the second one? Let's do it. 26 3/4. To draw on the aluminum crossbeams, I'm using this little metal scribe. I actually don't know exactly what you'd call it, but it just like chisels into the metal a little bit so you can draw a line. And now I'm gonna go cut it on the bandsaw. And now we're gonna put the 90s on here. I brought this little bowl with everything I need to do this up here, and I think I might climb on the roof for this. Okay. It's such a tight space to work. I think that's way too big. Hi, Tori. Tori's here. Okay, basically what's gonna happen is this is going to mount to these cross beams. So I think that's kind of perfect. Does that look amazing?
Yeah, it looks amazing.
So the next step is I'm going to drill holes in the polycarbonate and then drill through the cross beams.
You get to have it on your roof now, instead of storing it in some random place like the front seat in the last van.
It was such a pain in the ass to have it in the last van. So, as a lot of you guys know, Tori has a van of her own that she's building alongside me. So, if you want to, you can check out her YouTube channel so you can see her build. But update the people, Tori. Like, what have you been up to?
I just installed a ginormous skylight, which I'm so excited about. It's 4 feet by 2 feet if you're curious, and it literally looks like it takes up half a van.
Before I screw all of this together, I'm going to use this BLUETTI cable clamp, and this is how I'm gonna run the wiring for the Starlink through the roof. So I'm going to have to cut a hole, which is a little nerve-wracking, but this should be one of the last holes that I'm cutting through my van. And thankfully, with the way that I mounted my Starlink, I didn't have to cut any holes for that or drill any holes for that, so that's great. So basically, I think what is going to happen is the wiring is gonna go through here, and then this will just mount and screw onto my roof. And BLUETTI is an amazing brand, like really durable, and I used a lot of BLUETTI components in my last van, and they held up really well. I finished my Starlink. I think it looks so good on my roof rack. It looks really sleek, and from the ground you can barely really see it. You can only see the rim of the Starlink. I also have the wire coming through down here, so when I finish my wiring and my control panel area, that will all go in there. And the next step to this van build is installing my heater, and I also found a pretty cool way to do heated floors in this van. It cost me like maybe $100 extra to do this, which is awesome because heated floor systems typically cost up to $5,000. So if you want to see how I did that, stay tuned for next week's video. I'll dive into all of the details about that, and be sure to subscribe, like, and turn on notifications, and I'll see you guys next Sunday. Bye!